All right, we're back for another episode of the Rehashables. This is episode 14. It's early November, just got through Halloween, so we got a whole bunch of things to talk about. You ready to rehash some things?
Ready to rock, man. It is. Yeah, Halloween was awesome this year. Beautiful weather, great time, and got to watch a lot of spooky stuff, which was great. I'm excited to talk about it.
Which I also did too. So scary movies are not like a huge thing for me. They are much more for you. So when we talk about the things that we watch, like a couple of them will be some Halloween-ish, scary-ish type movie. So I'm looking forward to that. So I would say we just dig into that because it's only been a week since Halloween. And I bet you never thought I would do it. But I did watch Terrifier 1. It's fucked up.
Okay, so my first movie too is Terrifier 3. So let's just talk about the Terrifier franchise as a whole. I brought this up to you years ago. I was on board with Terrifier 1 when it first came out. And then a couple of years ago, Terrifier 2 came out, and then this year, Terrifier 3. So honestly, one of the more proud things in my movie conversations is that I was on this movie at the beginning because this movie, Terrifier 3, was just the #1 movie in America a couple of weeks ago, beating out Joker 2 and other movies, which is insane. Because Terrifier 1, which you saw, which I can't wait to get your thoughts, was made for $35,000. $35,000.
It has $35,000 production value. Like it really does. When you watch it, you're like, okay, yeah, I mean, I liked it, and we'll get into it. But yeah, it's amazing that it was made for $35,000. What did that movie make?
I think it made it 10 times. So it made about $350,000, $400,000 right off the bat off this little indie movie that no one really knew about, but it was awesome.
Now look at it though, look at the growth. I mean, I'm sure they sold a bunch of DVDs and movie sales just for that movie. Never mind the fact that it catapulted the whole franchise into a thing.
And then the second one, even better, was $250,000 budget and made almost $16 million worldwide. You know what I mean? So the story behind it is, to me, why I like the Terrifier franchise. That honestly has something to do with it. That this little indie movie that had grassroots online campaign to raise funds kind of got this cult following to where the third movie again is going to make over $50 million worldwide, which is insane.
What was that one made for?
That was made for $2 million budget.
Yeah,
so $2 million.
In the movie business, I'm not an expert in the movie business, but making a movie for $2 million and then doing $50 million the first weekend is an insane return on investment. Where you have these Avengers movies that cost $400 million and have $400 million of marketing, and they'll do $2 billion, but the return on investment isn't quite the same as some of these movies that have a small budget that hit for 20x production cost.
Yeah, so that's kind of to me, one of the biggest appeals to it, what got me into it, and I started getting buzzed to it, because even talking with you, and I've said this to you, I am very careful with who I would possibly recommend this movie to, because those people might cut me out of their lives completely. They may be
you like it as much as you do. It's one thing to be like, oh, hey, you should check out Terrifier movie. You're freaking the way you're passionate about it. I do have concerns, but thankfully we live a couple states away from each other.
I'll dive in and I'll kind of explain because I've been thinking a lot about it. Why I literally almost did a self-reflection about why do I like these movies so much? And I think I have an answer. But Terrifier 1, which I will say I think is the worst one of the three, still very good. The worst one.
Yeah, I mean, it's good for what it is. I score all the things that I watch. I think I gave it a B because it's not like the other movies that we'll talk about or other movies we see. It's good for what it is, which is a horror slasher movie, scary type movie. So with Terrifier 1, it's a very short movie. I think it's 84 minutes, 90 minutes, something like that. So which I appreciate because obviously I can't have a hard time watching anything that's much longer than that. Even this, I think I watched in 3 different settings, but it starts out fast. The big thing about Terrifier is Art the Clown. Mm-hmm. Right, Art the Clown is the face of it. I shared it on Instagram. It's this very scary looking clown, and even if you don't know what we're talking about in the movie, I feel Art has kind of broken through. At Halloween night, trick or treating with the kids, I'll see 10 people dressed up as Art the Clown, or you'll see things if you saw a picture of him, you'd be like, I recognize Art the Clown, and he's very distinct looking. All right, if you've been enjoying the podcast, I wanted to let you know that I am a residential loan officer with CMG Home Loans. If you or anyone you know is looking to buy a home or refinance, please let me know and I'd be happy to help. My contact information is in the description below.
back to the podcast.
So he's the Jason, the Freddy, the Michael Myers of like this last 10 years. There's no question he's the slasher guy. I mean, and you're 100% right. I think this year with Terrifier 3 finally broke out to the mainstream. Mom sent me a video on Halloween night of their house because Mom and Dennis is doing an awesome job decorating. And the video starts with a guy dressed as Art the Clown walking down Avey Avenue, walking by our house, and then they show us the house. So there was a guy on Mom's Street dressed as Art the Clown.
Totally.
Art the Clown on Thursday on Halloween closed the NASDAQ bell on Wall Street. The cast there on Wall Street ringing the bell. So he's definitely kind of finally crossed over to this mainstream, world. And he's so charismatic, I think, because he doesn't say a word. He's a clown, but he's really a mime. Like he doesn't
it's very expressive with his face, his body movement, the way you said. Like it's weird at first, but it kind of adds to the scariness. So I'm not going to go through everything about it, but like basically it starts out with this TV interview of someone that had a very face deforming injury, and it ends with that person doing something kind of weird to another woman, but you kind of just don't know where that fits into the overall movie. But then the credits start and it's Art putting on his gear, sharpening his knives and taking all of his stuff and throwing it into like a big trash bag basically. And then he leaves. And it's not like this elaborate story. It's like very straightforward where there's two girls coming from a bar, a party, they're kind of drunk. One of them's drunker than the other. And like he basically terrorizes those girls and other people get brought into it and get killed. But that's the plot, what I just told you. Then it's basically running from him and then him doing like very gruesome kills. Like really messed up things. And maybe that's standard for scary movies nowadays. I don't watch a lot of things like that, but like those kills were very gory.
Again, 100%. And I like normally I hate gore. Like if there's like a friend of mine is was a doctor or a surgeon and I have like pictures of like hands on his phone that he would like surgically put back on or fell out, whatever. And I couldn't look at that stuff. But with this, again, it's a weird thing to say, but it's all done with practical effects. So like just being in the movie world and like seeing that stuff, it's all like made real. Obviously stuff isn't real, so it's almost like an appreciation for that because it is so over the top. It is like literally 211. It is absolutely insane of that he goes with the kills, but it's almost like gets to that point where it's comical. You know what I mean? Like where it's like, this is so unrealistic and crazy that it almost makes you chuckle a little bit. You know what I mean?
I agree with that. I mean, it's not so realistic that you there's a little bit of a separation in reality there. I think that with the kills, that's where like the budget really shines through. And it is amazing what they did for the $35,000. I don't even know how people spend money on movies and where you would attribute all that stuff to, but like, it looks like a $35,000 movie when you're really looking at it, the special effects, just everything about it. But it was great, man. I'm honestly, like, I'm glad to have gotten it done just because I just want to say I've seen these movies. And when someone brings up Terrifier, it's like, I've seen them too. So these movies are on Prime. Terrifier 1 and 2 are on Amazon Prime. So if you have a membership, which basically everyone does, check it out there. I'll probably be watching Terrifier 2 this week, and we'll see when Terrifier 3 comes out in the next few months. But that's the plan.
So 2, just to let you know, 2 is like when the plot kind of started getting in, when you get introduced to the main heroine, who's gonna be kind of the girl throughout, the final girl throughout. Her name is Sienna. Great final girl. Like she's awesome. Like
she's a good girl to Art being the bad guy.
Exactly. She's the Jamie Lee Curtis to Michael Myers. She's the final girl, and it's kind of more. It's way more like the ones in Terrifier 1. You know nothing about these people. You know nothing about their backstories, where they are, whatever. Sienna, who's kind of becomes the main character, she gets drawn out a little bit more, and you learn more about her and Art and that sort of stuff. So to give. Yeah, go ahead.
Can we have a little bit of a spoilery conversation?
Yes, because I was going to.
3 minutes if you want. But at first, you would think that Art's just a guy that does like some really weird stuff, and kills people, serial killer type of stuff, guy that dresses up, whatever. But spoiler alert, he gets killed, I guess, at the end, and then kind of like shoots himself in the freaking head, and then somehow he is alive at the end to kill the mortician that was working on him, obviously speaks to it like a supernatural type thing to him, and it sounds like elaborate on. But I just didn't get that in the first episode. Is there something that I missed in the first movie that would make me understand why he rose from the dead?
So they're finally getting into the lore in 3, I would say. A little bit in 2, 3, they really dive into the lore behind it. I will say this. This is what I read. I read and I watched a million things on Terrifier 1. So they're thinking that Art the Clown, when you see the beginning where he's putting his makeup on and he's obviously a human and all that sort of stuff, that he was just a deranged serial killer. That he was a person that just liked to kill people in gruesome ways. And when he shot himself, he did not know he was going to come back to life. He didn't know that was going to happen. He thought that was it. Cops were there. And so when he went back to the morgue and they unzipped him and he got back up, there's that scene where he then looks in the mirror and he's kind of like surprised at what he sees.
This is fine. It's like,
it's
like normal, like what he looked like before he shot himself. And they showed him shooting himself.
Exactly. So he almost like he's like touching his face and he's like surprised at what happens. So something happened in that. I don't know what, I can't explain it, but there is like a demon element that ends up kind of them diving into. But my read on it was that he did not expect to come back to life after he shot himself. Something else happened, and then they dive into that more in 2 and 3.
So I do look forward to that. I think you and me both enjoyed movies that have lore around them, you know, John Wick or freaking Lord of the Rings. Make sure, like anything that has like this bigger world that you can kind of contemplate in your head outside of what you're watching on the screen. That sort of stuff interests me. So that makes me look forward to the second one even more. The girl with the deformed face.
Yep.
Is that the weird girl with the baby doll thing, or was that the sister?
That was the sister that ended up the
didn't show him eating her face, was it? I thought he was eating the other girl.
He was eating it was the woman's face, the baby doll, right? The face. Didn't he like take off her hair and put the hair on?
Yeah. So is that girl the girl in the wheelchair?
Or that was the one holding the doll.
Yeah, so she's the one in the wheelchair at the end. Not the main girl's sister.
No.
Came. Yeah, okay.
Okay. That was calling her and text her. No.
Yeah, okay.
Not her.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I don't know why I was unclear on it, but just for whatever reason.
This isn't Shawshank Redemption here. You know what I mean? There's some holes in this movie for sure. This is not like don't watch this movie for the story. You know what I mean? There's some really cool elements to it. Yeah, and then the girl with the deformed face, the ending and beginning was really, really interesting, and just leave it at that. You get
more sure of something that was going to happen to someone, like the girl, like the TV girl talking to her boyfriend or whatever on the phone. Like, has it ever been more obvious that something bad was going to happen to that girl at any moment?
And that one with the girl with the deformed face got shot like how many times and still lived.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It was pretty. They do dive into that a little bit more too. Okay. So it's. I'm pumped that you're into it. I can't wait to watch two, and then eventually 3. And just to let you know, I'm not going to dive into 3. 3 is almost like a Christmas movie because it takes place at Christmas time.
I feel like I did see Art the Clown in a Santa outfit someplace.
It all takes place at Christmas time. So if you can watch 2 and then watch 3, you can watch it as a Christmas movie.
With the kids, sure. You want to watch with the kids? Yeah.
But it was great. This is the first time seeing the movie in the theater. We went with Curtis, our brother, the 2 of us. I'm excited that when 4 comes out, now that you'll be able to come.
And there will be a 4. This is like a thing. There will be 20 Terrifiers.
Every 2 years, it sounds like. And then I think to complete the story, he wanted to do 4, but he thinks it might have to take 5. To tell the story, to tell a full story here.
And I looked at Art the Clown, like the actor that plays him, just to see what he looks like. And I saw that he played Art the Clown in a couple short stories, and that's maybe where this character started.
So it started with this other movie called All Hallows Eve, which was like an anthology movie, super low budget. Damon Leone, with the director, was going to create that. And that's how Art the Clown started, but it actually wasn't played by that guy. It was played by another guy. That's where Art was founded. And then when they were going to make this movie, or Terrifier 1, the other guy didn't want to go through the makeup and all that kind of stuff again. He said no, and he has to be freaking really upset with himself at this point.
Yeah, I mean, not like that guy's making so much money, but like, he probably would have. It would have been lucrative for him to stick it out and be that guy. I think of a guy like Robert Englund. If you remember him, like he's the guy that plays Freddy. It's like you kind of like that could be his thing for the rest of his life. But missed opportunity is what it is.
Yeah. But at the movie theater, we went 3 weeks in. It was about, I don't know, maybe a small theater, but maybe like 15 or 16 people. Did see 2 people leave the movie theater. 2 people
During the
walked out,
movie? Wow.
walked out during the movie. They did
What
not
would
come back.
no, jeez, I'm crow.
I know.
They were there to see something else, and they stumbled into the theater.
And I think it was 2 hours long, and it was so fun. So anyway, that's our Terrifier spiel. I'm pumped.
Yeah, I know we're going long on that one.
Yeah.
You know, I'm glad I watched it, so we'll revisit that in Rehashables at some point. I do want to move on to something else, though.
Go ahead. I want you to go to your second movie.
Yes, my second movie is another recommendation of yours, which I thought this was like a better movie and more like actually scary, and it's called Hereditary.
Yes.
And I believe it came out in, what, 2018?
Yep.
2018. I had no freaking clue what to expect. I just knew that you said it was a good movie, scary. Like, you try to take something from the title, Hereditary. Like, okay, what does that exactly mean? You know, I can only imagine when I'm going into it. But it starts out and it has like weird vibes to it, kind of right from the beginning. There's a little girl in it, and we're just going to kind of full blown spoil it.
Yeah,
Just listen to this, go watch the movie and then come back to it. It's worth watching. I ultimately liked it. I think I gave it a B+. Like, definitely check it out. But it starts with this family, mom, dad, this daughter that's very strange looking, weird stuff happens in class, and then the older brother. And like, to me, I think the whole movie's about that little girl. You know, I think I watched the first half hour, and I think I texted you. I'm like, I started Hereditary, like that little girl, cute kid or something like that. And she's not cute. You're just like, something's wrong with her. And like the way it transitioned from that to what it ultimately became was just like, I thought like a great story. Not like a great story, like a feel good. It was just like I didn't see it all coming at the beginning, and I thought it was told very well. I don't know how much you want to dig into it, but
dive in. Because that's how the whole movie was like campaigned, and like nobody knew what happened. So again, spoiler alert, whatever. You haven't seen Hereditary, but there's a scene like probably like not long after you stopped watching the first 30 minutes, like maybe 40.
Within 2 minutes. Like within 2 minutes. I think they were at a party. Yeah. The little girl has to go to a party with the brother, who's more like high school age. Yeah. She does not belong at that party. No. And she ends up like having a hard time breathing.
She had an allergic reaction to something that was in the creek.
Yeah. Allergic reaction, right? So the brother has to, we're going to full blown spoil this, throws her in the back of the car, brings her to the hospital. Decent brother move considering the situation. And she can't breathe. She sticks her head out the window. And he freaking like sideswipes a freaking telephone pole and she decapitates her. Yeah. You're just like, what the hell just happened? It's 30 minutes in the movie. Again, I thought the movie was about this little girl. You know what I mean? So it's not ultimately really that much at all. But her head comes off. Very jarring moment.
It complete, and the brother's reaction after that happens is he ends up just driving home, right? I think he just goes home, goes to bed. He goes to bed and like doesn't even know how to react or whatever. So that whole thing, and then it ends up shifting complete gears and really turns into a cult with our girl Patty. Wait, pause for a second.
This is my someone's calling me, so don't worry about it.
On you, whatever. But it's a cult movie. So in Patty from The Leftovers.
Her name's Joni in this, and you recognize her. She's awesome. She's in other stuff too. She's in Handmaid's Tale. She's
barrel of fun. Everything she's in.
She always plays weird characters. But so what she does in this show, she is a friend of the wife's mom. What's the wife's name? I forget her name.
Well, Toni Collette is the actress that plays her.
She does a really good job, and people are really
unbelievable in this movie.
She is really good. She's a freaking train wreck, though. She's an absolute train wreck. Bad relationship with her mother. Her mother was into some weird stuff, as you come to find out. This woman is friends of hers, and somehow tracks her down at like some type of meeting. I don't know if it was like a grieving type meeting, and gets her to do like what equates to like a seance to like Joni shows her how to speak to her grandson. And it gets weird, starts to get a little bit supernatural, and then says like, if you want to talk to your daughter, here's a candle, this is what you got to say. And she does that. And that's when things get like very strange for her, for the son.
It's like a haunted house movie. It's a demon, Payman. Yeah. His name is Payman, the demon. But Toni Collette, the lead actress, probably the more memorable, like the person you watch this movie and you'd be like, oh, I know who that is. She's so good in this movie. There was one scene that I remember that's so disturbing because she's like a little like model builder. Like she like builds models, and like she would build the model of like the scene that her daughter was like died.
Created that scene in a model.
And her husband comes in and she's like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "What? This is a perfect representation of like the scene. This is like she's so such a screw loose in this movie and hates her son, resents her son, the anger
having. There was talk of like her sleepwalking at one point and throwing gasoline on the kids when they were sleeping, or lighter fluid or something like that. Like she was gonna light them on fire. Like, not a great mom or person, but I guess her mom was a mess, and that kind of makes sense. Her husband is played by Gabrielle Burns. Is that?
Yeah.
And you would know he's kind of like that guy. You know what I mean? He's what's that? Yeah.
Yep.
But like he's a little bit of that guy. And we listened to a podcast breaking down this movie, and it was someone made a comment about like, what the hell did that guy see in her? like how are they still married? Like, she has no real like redeeming qualities. Like, she's a freaking nightmare. She's not a good mom. She's a freaking mess. Like, how are they still married? He's like a fairly normal guy.
It's so true. So I got to ask you, because I won't dive, because we can talk about this movie a lot, but I told you I thought this movie was genuinely scary. The last 20 minutes is pretty unsettling and like legit scary moments from when the dad gets set fire to like that point forward is pretty wild. What were your thoughts of that?
I there was a point where the son had to like run away from her, and I found that to be pretty scary. You know, like just it was moving fast, and I think he ran right up to the attic. She came out from someplace, and I thought that part was scary. She was like up high.
She was on the ceiling or whatever.
Floating up on the ceiling, and like, would she cut her head off with a piano wire or something like that?
Yep.
And there's talk about like that's how you released the demon when she did that. Like, there's like a little bit of a theme of decapitation. Like, I thought that was an unsettling part. There was also a part where he was like the last one to survive the family, and he ended up towards the very end. He saw people in the attic. Like, these are cult members. This is like a satanic cult thing, right? Mm-hmm. So like there's cult members in the attic. He goes outside. He sees who floats up to the treehouse.
Is it her body or his body? I think it's her body that goes to the treehouse and then releases payment.
Her headless body, floats in the air and like goes up this treehouse that's lit up, and there's like a bunch of cult members that he sees along the way in the woods, and then up there. And what ultimately happens is the demon gets placed in his body. Like, he's the host. He will be the host for Payman, who is one of the eight generals of hell or something like that.
Right. Good, great club name.
Apparently it's a thing, right? Like, they, on the podcast that we listened to, they said like this is backed in some type of literature or something like that. I'm not too familiar with all that stuff, but anyways, the end of the movie is him basically the son being the host for this one of the eight generals of hell, Payman, and that's kind of how it ends. But it's how it gets there from the beginning to the end is just like a very cool, different type of story that I wasn't expecting at all going into the movie. Yeah,
and it's what got. I mean, this was made by A24. Ari Aster was the director, and he went on to make Midsommar, which was like another awesome Halloween horror movie a few years later. But
that's kind of fun too.
So. That's a really, really good one. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad you watched it. That's definitely two things to watch before Halloween. Thought they were great. So
I'm glad I did. So thanks for the recommendation. I think we've talked about it before, and watching the movie, and then having the Rewatchables podcast for Hereditary is a good, a good additional thing to make you contemplate the movie, get some facts about it, laugh. Those guys are the best. I mean, that's why we did this podcast that we even do and call it the Rehashables, but it's the Rewatchables episode on Hereditary to accompany it. I thought was fantastic and really helped.
It was so funny. So good. Awesome. Glad you watched that.
Yeah, buddy. So what do you got?
All right, so shifting gears completely now, but the horror movies. I recently watched and finished The Comeback, the Red Sox 3-part.
That's one of the things I want to talk about too.
Did you end up watching it?
Watched all of it.
It's freaking unbelievable. That thing could have been, again, 10 episodes. It was so good. The people they got involved to interview and talk about that story. I can't believe it's been 20 years, but in 2004 when the Red Sox won the World Series, and the documentary starts back in 2003, the year they lost to the Yankees by Aaron Boone. Sport, it was so different back then, especially with baseball, just because the world literally stopped during those series.
Red Sox Yankees, yeah.
Everybody was talking about them. And when the Red Sox Yankees played each other, it didn't matter if the game was in April, if it was July, if it was the playoffs. people watch. Pedro's pitching tonight. Schilling's pitching tonight. It was like must-see TV. And the rivalry between the two. I mean, I said this the other day. Like, I remember being at like wrestling events, not even baseball events, and like all of a sudden a Yankees suck chant would start. It was so much hatred between the two. And for the Red Sox to come back, no team has ever done it. No team has done it since.
Can we take a step back real quick?
What's that?
Can we take a step back real quick?
Of course, yeah.
Because the 3 episodes thing is, it's the first episode is setting the stage for the rivalry and setting the terms, and they ultimately lose in 03 off of an Aaron Boone home run, and that's kind of how that episode ends. I think the second episode is kind of just setting up the next season, because 04 is when they ultimately played the Yankees again. I think in the third episode is just the actual comeback in that playoff series. When you said no one's ever done this comeback, they play 7-game series, and they were down 3-0 against the Yankees, and no team has ever come back down 3-0. And the third game they lost, I think they lost like 18-6. They got smoked that. Yeah, something like that. They got smoked that third game. So it's like you think that the fourth game is inevitable, and they're just going to get swept. And then like the story of their comeback is just freaking incredible. All the people they had in there and talking about it, it was just such a well done thing. And I think after 20 years, I was ready to revisit it. So who are some of the highlights for you in that show?
The interviews?
Yeah,
Pedro was the man. Like, Pedro back then, it was towards the end of his time with the Red Sox, but like 99 Pedro to like 04, he was like the guy. When we go to Red Sox games, we pray that we were going to somehow get Pedro on the mound.
And it always ended up being Wakefield.
Always. But Pedro, and then to me, just talking about like what a savage he was, and like wasn't afraid to throw at them, and you know, I thought he was probably my favorite, along with like Ortiz. You know,
Ortiz is great. Pedro was candid. Kevin Millar was interesting for me because I knew he was like the fun guy. He just doesn't look like a great athlete or something, but he was definitely like the glue guy. And he was really funny, and it amazed me how much video footage he took. You know, he seemed like to be having the camera a lot and doing a lot of talking into the camera. He just seemed like a great clubhouse guy. You know, and it was a great combination of guys like Ortiz, who's kind of like coming on to start to be Ortiz at that point. Pedro is Pedro, like you said, but then you also had like just the role player guys like, you know, Damon and Millar and just Wakefield. You know, just a great group of people.
They almost pretty much got the whole.
It was interesting they talked a little bit about the A-Rod trade, which was a big part of one of those episodes, and you know, Manny was going to be traded to Texas along with, I forget who else, for A-Rod. And that was it going to be Nomar and Manny?
Nomar would have been after the trade.
The thing would kind of revolve around like Nomar. And he kind of, to me, it seemed like Nomar was a problem at the end. Like, just like had to get rid of him. He wasn't playing. He was, you know, this team that was really good was not performing up to where they should be. And Nomar was a big part of that. So anyways, they needed to get rid of him. They're going to bring in A-Rod, and the thing ultimately fell apart. But at that point, Millar had already said, like, bring on A-Rod. And, you know, I didn't realize how unhappy Manny was, and I'm glad that he stayed because he was one of my favorites. But I'm not surprised that they didn't get any footage from him. It seemed like he just seemed like a weird dude, kind of living his own life.
Yeah, I think he's like probably still playing baseball somewhere, like out in like, you know, some like island or something like that. But and I think the last person that was just so good to get on was Theo, and Theo was the man. I mean, Theo was the man. He was 28 years old as a general manager, brought on huge risk to take him on. He made some bold moves that ended up paying off, because if they didn't make that Nomar trade, they were not winning the World Series.
That Nomar trade really catapulted them to what they became, right? It sounds like they started playing way better when he was gone, unfortunately, because Nomar was the man. He should have been like one of those like longtime Red Sox guys, you know, that you just throw in the conversation now with like people like Ortiz and Ted Williams, and just all the Yastrzemski and all that. So it's a bummer that he left, but just it is what it is. It worked out fantastic.
Yeah, it was such a good documentary. I mean, 3 parts was great. So I said the stuff with the Yankees was just so good, and it just brought me back very vivid memories of watching it with Mom, you know, and staying up till 1 a.m. for these games, which lasted forever, and then going to school the next day, exhausted, and then having to do it again the next night. There was no breaks in between. It was awesome, man. So good. And then kind of capping that off, the Yankees losing in the World Series was like a little cherry on top.
Yeah, for sure. Schilling was great too. Like, unbelievable story. Like getting into like the tendon stuff which was incredible. Just so many great storylines. The fight, the Zimmer throwdown, Pedro, like the A-Rod slapping the ball stuff. There's just so many good stories. And like I said, after 20 years to live that stuff again, because I'm not a big baseball guy at this point in my life, and it's been a long time since I've seen a lot of the stuff that we watched in the Dave Roberts steal. It was just all awesome and very well done.
Completely agree. So yeah, that's what I watched next. That's what I wanted to bring up. So
okay,
awesome.
I only have one other thing.
Yeah,
and I don't know what else you have, but for me, I don't think you've watched this, but I watched Starting Five to get into basketball season.
Yes. Yep.
So Starting Five is kind of like Drive to Survive is for F1. It's like the golf show for the PGA Tour. It's basically Netflix following around 5 NBA players. You get a sense of their life, their family stuff, the behind the scenes of being an NBA player. And it was the 5 people are Domas Sabonis, which is always a struggle to say, LeBron,
yep.
Anthony Edwards, Jason Tatum, and Jimmy Butler. That's I mean, at least 4 of those 5 guys, and Sabonis is good, and maybe he'll be an up-and-coming guy, but at least 4 of those guys are like legit superstars at different points in their career. And it was 10 episodes long, which is pretty long, but like, I don't know, dude. I'm hard-pressed to find anyone that could watch this show and then not like each one of those guys. I mean, it's the exact same way it was for every other thing that I watched, the golf stuff, the F1 stuff. It's like you watch these guys, you see their life, you see their kids, you hear them talking, you're like, freaking like that guy. So now I love all of these guys. Ultimately, walking away, I thought Jimmy Butler was like my favorite. Yep. Can we talk about this? I don't know if we talked about this, but Jimmy Butler just, I don't know, he's a very interesting dude, and he seems like a very good dad, and that's the kind of stuff that like I kind of get drawn to. Like, seems like he's really good with his kids, and Jimmy Butler is one of our arch enemies from a basketball point of view. Like, Miami has given us a really hard time as a Celtics fan, but like to just see how he was, like, gave me a lot of respect for him. Anthony Edwards is a freaking nut job. That guy is... he's like a big kid. I can't describe it. Like he's
only how old is he? Like
22. I mean, he's a kid. He's one of the best players in the league. Like what he can do on the court is very special. But like he's very much like an excitable kid. I think he had a kid on the show, so you had to see his girlfriend and that whole process. But I think he has like 4 kids with like 4 different women. I'm just like, Jesus Christ, dude, get it together. But he's great. LeBron was good because he's in a totally different part of his career. You know, you get a chance to see his family, a little bit of Bronny stuff, what his life is like. I'll never fully love LeBron like I do like MJ, but like it's been great to have him in the league for the past 20 years. It's fun to have him on there. I actually thought Tatum was like a little bit of a low point. He's just not super dynamic. He doesn't say stuff that like makes you have emotion. He's just like very even keel, and you know, it's just nothing too excitable. You got a chance to see Deuce, which is all cool. The best part of the Tatum stuff was that it chronicled the finals run and then winning the championship. So like that was cool to be able to relive, because I haven't seen like a highlight tape from that or any other documentary on that. So it was kind of like a mini Celtics doc within this overall series. So anyways, it was cool.
I've only watched a couple, and it's so good. The production quality, the level of the access they're able to get is incredible. But so how because I'm gonna watch it, I want to watch it. But how did they handle like the Tatum in the finals, because he was struggling in the? How did they handle that stuff?
You wouldn't have even thought he struggled.
Okay.
Like, it wasn't about his struggles. It was about them freaking dominating and the roles that he took. And he had some good moments and some good games, so they were able to picture that. But, you know, you get to see him celebrating with Deuce and the parade and all that stuff. And Joe Maz is on it. I think you would have seen him at a few different times. And he's a freaking man. You know, like, just the things he says and the way he approaches situations, the way he approaches Tatum. Like, I'm so glad that guy's our coach. But it was nothing about Tatum's struggles.
Definitely, I watched some. I want to finish it. Basketball season's been awesome so far. Celtics are dominant. Yeah, it's looking great. So I'm glad you got a chance to watch that.
I heard Jaylen Brown is currently being followed around for season 2, which is cool.
Awesome. That'll be great. I mean, that's awesome. So,
well, you got to think like they want people on the best teams, because I feel like the show is better if the guys that they follow go into the playoffs, and each one of them did. You know, Anthony Edwards made it to the Western Conference Finals. At least LeBron and Jimmy Butler and Sabonis were all involved in the play-in games or the first round stuff. So they don't want guys on the Hornets or something like that.
Do you know who else they got for season 2?
I don't. I only heard about Jaylen.
Awesome. Well, good. Glad you watched that. And Celtics are crushing it right now. So
yeah. Did you watch anything else?
Last thing for me is completely shifting gear. I couldn't get more opposite from Terrifier to this one, but it was the new Kristen Bell, Adam Brody Netflix show. Nobody wants this. Have you entire watched that?
No, Tara watched it on her own and said she loved it. She wanted to rewatch it again with me watching it, and
It's
maybe
so good. It's so
it's
good. It's just like a 25, 30-minute episodes. It's charming. It's easy to watch. Simple. Good like rom-com. Like Kristen Bell's awesome. Adam Brody from OC fame is the man. I loved him from the OC. Got great supporting cast. It's just a really good show to watch with your significant other. And like, 25, 30 minutes. It's really, really good. So
it sounds like it's exactly what it sounds like. A good watch with Tara, watch with Heather kind of show.
yeah.
25 minutes is not a huge commitment. So
Yeah.
if she's up to watch it again, I'll probably watch it as well. But it's just like so many things to watch. And one thing that we won't necessarily dig into today, but I know Shrinking is out again, season 2. You probably started that. Like, gotta add that to the list. So
yeah, exactly. It's good. You can get through it really quick. It's really simple, and they did get renewed for a season 2.
Mm-hmm.
It's just great. It's a really good show. Looks good. So that's the last thing I wanted to mention. So
cool. I'm glad you mentioned it, pal. So that's a solid conversation on watching some pretty good stuff. Next month, I hope to watch Alien Romulus, which I haven't done.
That's on my list.
I'll probably watch the show. I'll probably watch Shrinking, Silo on Apple TV, which you've never watched. Season 2 is coming out in the next couple weeks.
I did watch the first few episodes of it, and I love it. I have to. I did. I took a break from it over the summer. Something else came up, but I will be. I'll at least be watching season 1 of Silo.
Yeah. So Season 2 is coming out too. What's that?
Got good reviews.
Did it? Awesome. Yeah. I haven't even seen it yet. I can't wait. I love the first season. Great, like mystery show, dystopian future kind of show. Worth checking out. So that's a couple things that's on the horizon for me. Do you have anything special that you're?
Yeah, I'm Googling right now. Gladiator 2 is coming out in a few weeks, and that is a movie I want to see with you in the theater. So
yeah, we should do that. That's Gladiator was a big time movie for me growing up. I think it was around high school for me, so maybe junior high for you.
Yeah, and we got to. We have to, and it's actually really good reviews.
The idea of Gladiator 2 doesn't sound good to me. Like, oh shit, they're making a freaking Gladiator 2. Like, great. Like, what are they going to do to freaking mess this up? But like you said, it sounds like it's getting good reviews. Some hype. Denzel in it. So
the cast is so good that it's tough, I think, for it to be bad. Paul Mescal's the man. Obviously, Pedro Pascal, Denzel. It's gonna be good. So that's one I'm watching. And Alien Romulus is also on my list. And Shrinking for sure. So those are things I'm hoping to get done for the next one.
And Terrifier too. So we'll have more Terrifier conversation.
I might do a rewatch of that to just get back a good refresher.
I just maybe watch it every day before you go to bed. So.
That's when I get anxious, I watch it.
when you want to relax, you're feeling having a good day.
When I want to relax and calm down, I throw on the Terrifier trilogy.
Sweet. All right, pal. We'll do it again next month.
All right,
good stuff.
See ya.
All right, see ya.